So guys, there were two hunt setups this last hunting season that were new for me. And it's not that the setups were new to the industry or anything, but one of them was an A-frame blind. We had never hunted out of one, and I'd never handled the dogs out of one. And we had a couple issues with that I'm gonna talk about. And the other one that we'll show you a little bit later on is just hunting out in the spread, laid out on the ground in a little ground chair. That also was new for us and new for the dogs. So we're gonna show you both of those and just how I'm gonna train for that this off season. Because they were both fantastic ways to go hunt birds. The first one we're going to show you is the A-frame blind. If you're like me, you don't own one, so how are you going to train out of one? Well, you can get creative. You can see I've built an A-frame blind just out of a couple pieces of scrap plywood I had and some T-posts, and I've got something that I can train and work my dog out of that is just like an A-frame blind. The issue that we had, as I think back about that now, is two things. One, Drew, and she was the dog that I had the issue with, we had not worked on handling where the only part of me that she can see is from here up. And when you're in an A-frame blind, actually it's a little taller than this. It was about up to here on me, and all I had were just my arms for her to look at. The second issue was, and you need to think about this, what are you in when you duck hunt? Typically you're all camoed up, right? And if you're against a dark backdrop, all camo, it's very difficult for your dog to see that. So a couple recommendations: either have a white towel with you so your dog can pick up on that when you're handling, or take your gloves off so they can see that hand. I didn't do either, and she struggled with that, and this was a bird that was no more than 15 yards away, and we really struggled to pick that bird. And what we're going to show you today is that exact retrieve as best as I can replicate it, just so you can see that this is something that she and I will be working on this off season as well as the other dogs. So here we go. We're just going to put a couple shots in the air. This is just like our hunt situation. The dogs can't see the birds working. They're in this A-frame with us, so they can't see what's going on. These are true blinds that these dogs are working when you're hunting out of one of these types of hunt setups. So here we go. Guide says all the birds are down, go pick them up. So what I'm gonna do is just get Drew out of this blind, and then I'm gonna have to handle her to this bird. Drew, go back. Go back. Good girl, good girl. Dead. That was about the distance of the bird that we missed and really struggled on last season. It was no further away than that. So again, we have come back and we've worked on this a little bit since then, so she's gotten better, but so haven't I. But I'll continue to work on this, and if you're gonna hunt out of one of these kinds of blinds, this is what you need to be doing in the off season, just so you and your dog are getting this figured out before you go into that first hunt out of an A-frame blind.
Guys, shoot them.
Hey guys, we're here at Central Kansas Outfitters, and we've just wrapped up our morning hunt on day 2. We're here for 3 days. And this morning's setup was a milo field, a cut milo field, and we've got just a small pocket of water here that's pulling the birds in. But we want to talk about how we've had to run the dogs on this setup this morning. As you can see, we were hunting out of an A-frame blind this morning, and there was nowhere to hide the dogs outside of the blind, so they're inside with me. And as you can see, they cannot see anything. They can't see any action going on. There's the dogs there coming out. So we had to shoot our birds. These are true blinds that all the dogs are running. They can't see anything falling. So here is where you want your lining skills to be extremely good. The water's fairly wide open. Those are pretty easy retrieves. But when we're dumping birds out into this cut milo, this is where it becomes a little more difficult. And the best way to train for this is you want to make sure your lining skills on your dog are extremely good. What happens is, and this is the same in a cut cornfield, you can get your dog out, stop them, ask them to hunt, and typically what they want to do is run up and down the rows. It's hard to get them to drill down and hold an area. So a couple things: you want to be able to line them out, You want to be able to stop them. Your stop whistle should be excellent, and you should have a very, very good hunt command. You should be able to stop them and ask them to hold an area and not run up and down these rows. So we're going to show you this a couple times. We've got some birds out there the dogs haven't seen. I'm going to line Diesel, and then I'm going to line Drew, and just show you how we handle picking these birds up.
Back.
So you can see I stopped him, gave him his hunt whistle, and I expected him to hold that area, and he found this bird dead. If they're not able to hold that area really well, they're going to want to run up and down these rows. So another hunt setup, and it was a first for us that we had last season. And I got to tell you, this is by far my favorite way to hunt. I am totally turned on to this after our hunts last year, and we did it in 2 different places, one in Kansas and one down in the Boot Heel of Missouri. Is literally laid out in a spread of decoys, no blind around you whatsoever, and I absolutely love it. You can see everything going on, the dogs can see what's going on, and it's just an unbelievably fun way to go hunt waterfowl. But with that is a couple things you need to keep in mind with your dogs. One, they have got to be rock steady, because literally this is where they're at when you're out in this type of a hunting setup. They're right here next to you. Nothing's really holding them back. There's no place for them to hide. They can see everything going on. So you've got to work on your steadiness in the off season if you're going to take your dog out. I'll be honest with you, I played it safe with mine. I actually had a lead on them and tied them to my chair because I just didn't want any accidents or anything foul to go on this type of hunt. But we're going to work on this on the off season, so when we go into this kind of hunt again this coming season, I won't have to have them on a lead. They'll be steady enough that they can handle this. But we just want to show you today how I'm going to train for this in the off season. You can see we've got a nice snow goose spread around us. Even the duck hunting we did last season was in a snow goose spread. It was unbelievable how those ducks would come to snow geese. A lot of us, myself included, don't have access to spreads like this. We don't have the decoys. I'm just fortunate enough that I've got a friend that loaned them to me for this video, but it's easy enough to do this at home, guys. Save up those Walmart sacks, save up all those dead sticks that fall down in your yard, and within a couple months you can have yourself 200-300 Walmart sacks and have a snow goose spread you can go train your dog out of. So don't think you can't do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. So what we're gonna do, this is the hunt setup. We're just gonna put a couple marks out there, just like we would on our duck hunt. We'll put a couple rounds in the air. What we're looking for here is our dog steady? Are they gonna break? Are they marking? Everything that we'd expect on that hunt, and if we got any issues, now's the time to fix them. So we'll just see how Diesel and Drew do on this. Here we go. Okay, dogs were steady. That looks good. Now, if you've got one down, especially if it's a wounded bird and it's running, you want to get your dog on that right away. So we're gonna go ahead and send them on one. Diesel, go back. He got our runner. That's great. The other dog's sitting here nice and steady and patient, waiting her turn. Good lad. Dead. Gun safety, the only place to put your guns on the ground, make sure it's unloaded and the safety's on, because your dog's gonna step on it just like mine just did. Stay. Drew. Hold back. Good girl, dead. So both retrieves were successful there, but a couple things if you notice in the video, with this kind of a spread and they're everywhere, your lining is not gonna be great because you're lining your dog, and as soon as they get into those decoys, they've got to dodge and jump and get all around that. So your initial line coming out of this spread is not gonna be good because your dog is getting knocked off that line. You've just got to be prepared as soon as they get out of that spread. If they're offline, you're gonna have to be able to stop them and handle them and get them back on the correct line to go get the bird. This is all things you need to practice and get your dog prepared for before you go out on that live hunt.